Once you are filed and you've been waiting for about 6 months, you get monthly emails with an update just letting you know we haven't forgotten about you. Your case is still pending, a decision with the USCIS. As I said, it's taking upwards of 18 months for USCIS to give a decision on the case. So currently they're processing cases that were filed in December of 2023 or January of 2024. So for those of you that were filed after this time frame or even during this time frame, it's a little bit of a wait. So there's no guarantee just because somebody else was recently approved that your case is also going to be approved. It just depends on the time frames. But you do get those updates from us. So that is all the information we have at that time. We also have a pre-arrival newsletter that goes out and a visa bulletin update. So you get those updates through that too, which gives you more information on what to expect, what the timeframes are, how long you could expect to wait for an embassy interview. We do the quarterly immigration webinar, which is what we're doing now. And those are available every quarter. We try and do it at the beginning of the new quarter. And that allows us to give you more relevant updates because that's typically how the Department of State moves, is every quarter. So we try and do those for you. We also have our website, the Avant website, where we post updates that are important or anything that you need to know with regards to Department of State or legislation. And then, of course, there's social media where we are constantly posting on any updates that become available. So there are plenty of avenues for you to get updates. Email updates and personal email updates are not really realistic, or we are not able to do that as much as we would like to. We do have a heavy volume of candidates in our pipeline, and so we try and give you the most relevant updates when these are available. So we appreciate your patience through this and you waiting as we wait for your process to move forward and your priority dates to come correct. With that, I see that you have some questions and we've answered some of them, but we'll go over a few that we've seen in the chat and some of the most frequently asked questions. One of them is, again, we get this all the time. What is the average waiting time for the I-140 to be approved? So like I said, it typically takes about 18 plus months. The USCIS is currently processing cases that were filed in December of 2023 and January of 2024. It could take more time for your case to be processed. So if you were filed in December of 2023 and you don't have an approval, it's probably around the corner. And that's just the time frame. We also get questions on premium processing. We are not premium processing at this time because there is retrogression, which we also went over. We are not really seeing any benefit of premium processing. Your priority date is established based on when you were filed. So if your case was filed in December of 2023, at the time that it is approved, that will be your priority date. So there is really no benefit in premium processing cases. So we're not doing that. Another question that we get asked a lot is what exactly is a priority date? What does that mean? And again, that is something that is established based on when your case is filed. So if your case is filed today, October 20th of 2025, the USCIS provides a receipt notice, and that is what establishes the waiting for you. So you're in a queue waiting for that priority date. Once your case is approved, that is the date that you will get. I'm trying to go through some of these questions. Another question, I see it in the chat now, why we don't provide a receipt number. So we get this all the time. It's not to prevent you from tracking the case. It is not to hide it or not give you access. The I-140 is an employment petition. So it's Avant's petition. It's not your petition specifically as a candidate. The reason we do not provide it is because we follow up with the USCIS through senators, we follow up through our attorneys, and there are other avenues. And when you go online and submit an inquiry, it kind of resets the clock. And so you're not able to follow up if one request for an update is made. And that kind of, I'm not saying everyone does it, but that prevents us from doing what we need to do for due diligence in terms of following up. So we do not provide that so it doesn't overlap. And at the time that we are looking to seek an update in case of relevant delays, then we're able to get those rather than getting an automated message from the USCIS saying that we've just submitted a request. So we monitor that for you. We have other avenues than the online form that we use to get updates through the USCIS directly or through our attorneys or even the senator's office. So that's why we do not provide you with your receipt notice. I see another question. I see a question from somebody in Nigeria, where your priority date is current and no interview date has been given. So some of the countries, as I said before, we are struggling to get interview dates from those countries. So it is taking a lot longer. And this is, again, it's embassy specific. And we have gone through the embassy directly through Department of State, AAIHR, and we are trying to get movement, but we're simply not getting interview dates as quickly as we would like to. So some countries, specifically some of the countries in Africa and in the Middle East, are delayed with giving embassy interviews. So we are trying to get those moving, but we're just going to have to wait until that is scheduled for you. Can you work in a different country? I think we've provided this information before, but yes, you are able to do that. Just let us know where you're looking to go so we can make sure that you are working or looking to work in a setting that we are able to keep you on the program, because we also want to make sure that any employment that you have is suitable for US placement. So if you're going to go into a unit or into a setting or into a role which doesn't align with what we need for placement in the US, then that might be a delay at the time that your priority date is current. And I think some of the questions are on H-1Bs, and I'll save that for after I've gone through the other questions on the green card process. So the green card process, as you know, is something that is primary. So we are looking, you sign up with Avant for a green card. So it's for the EB3 process. We did have opportunities and we're still looking for more for the H-1B. So the H-1B is a non-immigrant visa. We do have some opportunity, and that comes up every so often when we have clients that are eligible and able to offer that. Currently, we do not have any H-1B placements. So again, this is not a permanent thing. This may be something that we see move in the next few months. We also had the recent proclamation, which was issued by the president, which puts a fee on the H-1B. So till we have more information on what that proclamation means, if nurses are impacted or if the nursing profession is impacted, we are on hold. So we are not currently recruiting for or filing any H-1Bs as of this time until we have further updates on the proclamation and what that means for us. So that is on a hold. If you're already in the process for an H-1B and you have placement, again, the filing is on hold. But outside of that, if you do not have placement and if you do not have a client that has been assigned to you, then we do not have opportunities at this time. So at the time that we do, we will reach out to you, we will let you know, and that's where the H-1B stands. So we do not have opportunities at this time. I see some questions on the government shutdown. So that happened a few weeks ago. We do have a government shutdown that's currently ongoing. It doesn't impact you or your interviews or your process. So the USCIS is still functional. The embassies are still working. The NVC is still doing what it needs to do. So it doesn't really have an impact on your process for a green card. So we are good with that. Also with political environments, these change. This is not new. And this is something we've seen in the past too. So we do have political change, and right now it doesn't affect you and doesn't impact the process that we have. So nurses are Schedule A, which means that there is a shortage in the US of nurses, and that is what allows us to file your petition without the perm process, which is faster, and we do not have to establish certain criteria. So we do not see that this would be an issue for nursing. However, the political environment changes. It's not just the US, it's all over the world. So we just monitor it and we provide you with updates as these become available. I see a comment which says it doesn't sound promising at all. I'm not sure what part doesn't. There is a wait, and that's just, again, not something that's new. We've seen this for a very long time and throughout my time here. So Avant's been in business doing this for over 20 years. And I've been with Avant for almost 13 years. So this isn't something that is out of the ordinary. This is something that happens and it is just a waiting period and it will move at some point. We just have to wait and be patient with it. And again, I understand most of us that work in immigration at Avant, we're immigrants, we've gone through this process ourselves. And so it is frustrating. We understand that. It doesn't move quickly and it's not an instant process and it's not an exact science. So we do appreciate your patience. Our goal is to have you come here as quickly as possible. We are just heavily reliant on outside entities, whether it's the USCIS or the embassy or the National Visa Center. And so we're just going to have to wait. And in the interim, you can do other things, as Jennifer mentioned a little bit before. You can work on your savings. You can continue to work full time and focus on that. Save funds for your family. And if you haven't taken the English exam, you can do that at the appropriate time. And there are other things that you are able to do at was a very short period of time, probably 12 to 18 months, where we saw the priority dates become current and people move because there was a backlog. However, prior to that, and even after that, since then, we have always had retrogression, and that is likely to stay. Retrogression is simply that the demand for visas is more than what's available. And as long as we have candidates like you and everyone else that wants to come to the US and realize their American dream, we will see retrogression. So this is an ongoing phenomenon. This is not new. We try and monitor it, and sometimes we see more movement than other times, but this is here to stay. This is not something that is unusual. There's a question on HWRA. So with the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act, this is something that I'm not sure what clarity you're looking at on that. So with what that stands for is basically we are looking to find a carve out for nurses, and we're working with AIHR and with the Department of State and USCIS and through other legislation to get this act going. And what that would do is it would open up visas for nurses and doctors. So that is something that has been on the back burner for a while. We are working closely with the government. Again, this goes through legislation, so it's not an easy fix, anything that requires the government to make a decision. You obviously have support for it, and there's also opposition to it. So we're trying to work through it. As we have updates, we will keep you posted. It would open up a significant number of visas for nurses and for doctors. So we're optimistic about it. But again, how quickly that moves depends on who's in office and the administration. There are some questions about personal case-specific questions. I'm not going to go over those on this platform. Please reach out to your immigration specialist. If you do have dependents, I can give you a general answer for those of you asking about your family status. If you have dependents that you need to add to the case or remove from the case, that is something you can talk to your immigration specialist about. We can add them at different phases of the process. We try and time it so it impacts your timeframes as little as possible. But yes, if you decide to get married or if you have children, we can definitely add those dependents, your legal dependents on the case. And again, if you're going through a separation or a divorce, we can go over what that looks like for you at the time that you have a legal divorce decree. I'm trying to go through a few more questions. I see a question on visa screen. So we try and process your visa screen as soon as possible, and closer to the expiration of your English exam so you don't have to retake it. We don't advise that you take the English exam as soon as your case is filed because there is a little bit of a wait. But if your case, if your IELTS or your English exam, whichever one you take, is closer to expiration, then our team will reach out to you and commence the process for your visa screen. Working in other countries, we already went over this. As long as it is reviewed and approved by Avant, you're welcome to do it. There's another question on H-1Bs and how long we will need to wait. Again, we will let you know once we know. We don't have any information, our attorneys don't have information. We are monitoring it, and that's the best that we can do. This comes through the White House, and so we're going to have to wait for updates, and we'll see them when you see them. So as soon as we have information on the H-1Bs and what that proclamation means, we will let you know. Again, even though we are waiting on that, for those of you that have an H-1B in process where you have placement confirmed, that might be a little bit of a wait. For those of you that do not have client interviews or do not have client placements, we no longer have H-1B opportunities at this time. We're looking to find more clients, but that's not going to happen in the next few months. So at the time that we have availability, we will reach out to you and let you know. Just going to go through some of the other questions. Can you visit the US? Yes, you can absolutely visit the US while you're waiting for your green card process. You will need to apply for a tourist visa, and that's something you will have to go through with the embassy independently. So you can go on the website for the embassy where you live and apply for a non-immigrant tourist visas. And if it's approved, you're welcome to travel. Just let us know when you plan to travel or what your travel dates are, so we have that information on file. I think most of the other questions we have answered. I see some more H-1B questions. We'll give it another minute to see if any new questions come up, but a lot of the questions we've already gone over. And if there are case-specific questions, then please reach out to your immigration specialist and they'll be in a better position to answer those questions for you. I see questions on licensure. So no, so again, with placement, as long as you have a US license at the time that you are closer to coming to the US, your priority date is current and your embassy interview is scheduled, we can have you placed anywhere. So placement is based on availability and your specialty. So we are not bound by where your license is issued. We can always get this endorsed. So at the time your priority date is current and your visa is issued, we can have placement finalized for you. And at that time, depending on the state you are placed, we can have your license endorsed to a different state. So you're not bound to just that one state. I see questions again, vaccinations. There are a lot of other questions on timeframes for English and visa screen. We will reach out to you. So I understand there's a lot that goes on in your minds when it comes to what the requirements are. We tell you, so you will receive communication from the relevant departments at the appropriate time. Your vaccinations and all of those requirements are not something that you would do until a lot closer to coming to the US. So that is determined based on your state of placement, what that state requires. So at the time that your priority date is current is when you will get information on that. The same thing with license, visa screen, English, we will let you know when to take those exams and when to complete those requirements. So if you haven't heard from Avant and if we haven't told you to do this, then it is not something that is required at this time. We send out timeframes and what the process looks like. And so just go ahead and look at those timeframes. And it does take a while. So there is a long wait, and I understand that it's anxious for you to wait for those updates because you're not really sure if you're missing anything, but we will reach out to you at the appropriate time to get those requirements completed. I see another question on the H-1B and the fee. We've already gone over that. We're still waiting on clarity on what that proclamation means and who it applies to. So we don't know yet. You should have received an email from our executive team advising on the fact that we're still waiting for additional information on the proclamation and whether it applies to nurses for the H-1B. So once we have that information, we will let you know. There are some questions about pregnancy and what that means. Really, like we said before, you can add dependents to the case. So just let your immigration specialist know if you're expecting. Congratulations if you are. And we will time your process appropriately based on where you are in that immigration process. I think that's all the questions. I don't see anything new that's come up. Again, if you are current, if your priority date is current and you're waiting for an embassy interview, this is scheduled by the National Visa Center and the embassy. So unless they have available slots for those interviews, there could be a delay. So just because your priority date is current, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will be scheduled immediately for an embassy interview. So if you have those, then we're just going to have to wait until we have that schedule, and you will get an email directly from the National Visa Center. So once there is availability for an embassy interview, you will receive an update directly from the National Visa Center. So like I said, you'll see it when we see it. As we have updates, we will let you know. And at the time it's scheduled, we will reach out to you and let you know what the next steps are. I think that is everything. With more information on specifics, we will reach out to you with what that means as you are closer to being current and closer to coming. So again, just to recap quickly, if your I-140 is filed, it is about 18 plus months for that decision to be received. We provide you with regular updates on what happens with your case and at the time that you are current. In the National Visa Center phase, we will pay your fee bill and move you as far along in the process as we are able to, which is to final processing. That is the holding place at the National Visa Center, where you will wait until your priority date is current and an embassy interview is scheduled. For some countries, mostly those in Africa and the Middle East, it is taking a lot longer, even if your priority date is current, for you to be scheduled for an interview. And so we ask that you wait. We are waiting patiently with you too. So we will let you know at the time that we have an update on your embassy interview and what is required for you to do at that point, which includes medical exams, any documentation. We will send you what is needed. Placement will likely commence at the time that your priority date is current and you're closer to getting that embassy interview. So we do not place you well in advance because we don't want you to lose assignments. So anything placement related is closer to the interview because that's a more definite time frame for us. For those of you that heard my dog bark, I'm sorry about that. But that's pretty much it. We will let you know at the time that the interview is scheduled. Other than that, we provide updates as these become available. If you have any questions that are personal, please reach out to your immigration specialist. And other than that, thank you for joining us today and have a wonderful day.